Hello everyone and welcome back to my little nook on the internet. Today we're speaking about how I make books more immersive as someone trying to heal their retention rate from doom scrolling. In today's age, scrolling has become something many people find easier than reading. But what if it's because we need to make reading more immersive? In the past year, I've been struggling to retain information, visualize concepts, and just read overall, so I allowed myself to get back into it in a fun way. And in this video, I hope to guide other people to make reading fun again, or just more immersive. Annotating and immersing yourself in books can boost brain health, imagination, and retention skills. A way I found to truly immerse myself in books is by incorporating my senses, a technique commonly used in schools. Remember when you would read a book for class and would either read the book out loud or listen to an audiobook in the background? You'd go home and remember everything about that book because it was connected to your senses. In this instance, it was connected to your hearing sense. The key is to create an engaging environment for reading, and here's how I personally do this. Now, to begin annotating a book, we first need to pick a book. I personally picked Bridgerton because it was the book that caught my interest. For the first sense, we're going to speak on sight and how to incorporate more sight into reading. Here, we want to imagine the elements of the book, character analysis, scene analysis, and take a moment to close your eyes and just truly visualize every aspect when they describe characters, when they describe scenes, and imagine exactly how you would create these descriptions. One big way I implement sight into my reading is through drawing. If I have a description that I gain from a book that is very descriptive, it often makes me want to draw the thing. For example, in the book Wing of Starlight, one thing spoken about was Queen Clarion's enormous glowing wings. So naturally, I really wanted to draw that because it just sounded so beautiful. I wanted to visualize how her wings would look, even though I do know how they looked because I did watch Tinkerbell, but I wanted to visualize from just a perspective of never watching Tinkerbell and just only going by pure description. In doing this, it made me really connect with the character and how they could have possibly be seen in my mind. Some other ways I implement sight is through tabs and chapter summaries. I actually wrote a whole blog post on how I annotate with tabs, but I'll also summarize my process here. For each of my books, I have different tabs, but a good rule of thumb is to include tabs based on characters, scenes, and an overall summary. In the introduction of character descriptions, make the tab red or something. For scene introduction, use green. Tabbing will make the summary selection easier to remember and more engaging when you start summarizing the chapter. Next is summarizing. This is when we put everything together, our drawings, our tabbing, and make sure to thoroughly reflect on my previously read chapter. I reflect on vocabulary, characters, scenes, and really see what I generally enjoyed. I ask questions and allow myself to organize information. This is when I identify main points and figure out where the book may go. Summarizing also helps me, someone with troubled memory, boost their retention and just remember everything. The next sense would be touch. Write in the book. If you have questions, highlight them, underline them, and write them out. If you don't know a word, look it up in a physical dictionary. Force your mind to get comfortable searching for a word in a dictionary rather than your phone, and write the definition down. I typically highlight and add elements like stars. I highlight if I see something I want to come back to, and I star to know if something hits and makes me think. Writing in your books really helps you capture the thoughts you had while reading a specific passage or chapter. Next would be sound. Music. If I'm reading a book like Bridgerton, I would want ambient, no lyric music that fits the book, making it feel more immersive as I read. It allows my brain to kind of act as if I'm a character. A way I personally implement music is through something like a Pomodoro, as it normally has Bridgerton music in the background and also a little bit of a timer, so I'm reading very intentionally. Another way to incorporate sound, which I would highly recommend, is through reading out loud or using audiobooks. This will allow your mind to absorb content more deeply. This will boost your memory, increase your focus, and enhance comprehension, and aid in speech and vocabulary. And honestly, I love it because it feels like I'm watching a show, but maybe you're having an off day and you don't really feel like reading out loud. Maybe try listening to the audiobook, but do while reading the physical book. In this case, it creates an immersive experience by boosting brain activity and allowing you to connect with the characters. Let me also note that if you're going to read with a physical book, please try to search for it at a local library first and see if they have it so you don't have to spend money on a book that you might not return to. Unless you know you're really going to like it, then Of course, you can do what you feel, but if you know you're not going to read it again, or maybe you're just going to read it and it's just going to be in a collection, check your local library first. Lastly would be smell and taste. Now these ones are a bit extra, but it really adds to the whole immersiveness. For my book, which is Bridgerton, something often mentioned is lemonade and an extensive number of pastries. If I really want to put myself into the shoes of a character, then I would make the food that's commonly spoken. This generally makes me so happy, and one of my favorite memories from doing this is actually in elementary school when we were reading Polar Express and the teacher made us hot chocolate. As a kid, this made me absorb the book a lot more and build a memory that I still have to this day. As for smell, this could be something as simple as visualizing a smell that you would believe would match the book, and maybe lighting a candle or using a diffusing essential oil. But this section is more of just the extra element. It's the cherry on top. Now, I know all of this sounds like a lot, but to be honest, it's quite straightforward. You can find summary pages that include characters, scenes, and vocabulary sections online, or you can use the one that I have created that basically has everything I stated here on that whole page. And alongside that, you can use ambient music on YouTube, brew a cup of tea, and visualize at home what all the characters and scenes would be like. Well, that's how I've come to thoroughly enjoy reading again, especially after a long period of consuming fast-paced content. For those who can dive into a book and immerse themselves easily, I love that. However, in this video, I want to speak to those who truly feel like reading isn't as enjoyable as an instant dopamine, because it truly can be if we allow ourselves to make it immersive. Looking back on some of the ways our grade school teachers created an immersive reading session for us makes me feel so beyond grateful. May this video boost you to read more. Thank you for joining me in this week's video, and until next time.